Okay. So I'd like to be the first to welcome everyone here for today's BCA Talks Tech event. Today, we're going to be talking about the intersection of technology and social justice and how we can use technology to basically make the world a better place. So, I'm Sadie. I'm the community coordinator here at Burlington Code Academy. I'm here with some awesome panel members today. I'm really excited to hear from all of them and to hear their responses to the questions that we're going to be asking. Basically, the goal of today's event is to really celebrate the work being done in the field of technology and to support the people around us. And we're going to be hearing from Ashley from Techdren, Anna from GiveCard, and Mike from TUGG today, all of whom are just vast resources of information and are doing incredible work. So thank you all for being here. And then I would love to have everyone just introduce themselves, a little bit about your organization, what you do there, and a little bit of an overview before we jump into some more particular questions about how social media and technology and social justice, how all these things meet together. So, and if you want to kick us off and introduce yourself and a little bit about the Give Card, that'd be fabulous.
Thanks, Sadie. So my name is Anna Peterson. I am a current senior at Boston College studying computer science, and my minor is managing for social impact and the public good. So it's a great place to be here today, my favorite intersection. But I am representing GiveCard today, which is a startup nonprofit. And it's just been an amazing time to be on that team. I am my title has changed a couple times because there is 11 of us, and I started as web developer, and now I've kind of taken over a little bit just general technology and like lead technology and head of growth in that way. So we wear a lot of hats, as I'm sure people who are both in the startup world and the nonprofit world know. You kind of just do whatever needs to be done. But to step back for a second, GiveCard started about 2.5 years ago. Started as an idea from our founder Lorraine, and he was walking through Boston one day and a homeless man asked for money, and they really genuinely wanted to help. They had a conversation with this man, but they paid for their dinner with debit cards, Venmoed each other, all kind of cashless. And we see this trend so much more. We are living technology, and with COVID, we are constantly just doing things digitally, and now that's more of a health concern rather than just convenience. But it was kind of born out of this idea that people are walking around with less cash, and that was just kind of a little window into the whole issue and problem of homelessness. So we started as thinking of ourselves as that mediator between individuals wanting to donate to the homeless individuals and people who are experiencing homelessness, to kind of having multiple components of who we are. So who we are is we're a nonprofit organization giving specialized debit cards, digital donation systems, and revolutionary financial planning to our homeless community, specifically starting in Boston. So that's kind of a mouthful, but basically the components of GiveCard are card eligibility and distribution, focusing on how can we get debit cards and a bank to back these homeless individuals, to allow them to spend money through donations that they get. And then financial education, that's an integral piece to who we are as GiveCard, trying to financially empower and pull people out of homelessness or people on the fringe of homelessness. And then with 2020 and COVID, we really started looking into digital case management, because that is a problem that we've seen a lot and heard a lot of voices talk about, with the issues of case management between case managers and communication. So we're looking at how we can digitalize that. And so there's a lot, especially being 11 students, balancing full-time course load and then being a certified nonprofit and trying to get investors and banks in a very high risk situation, as many banks have categorized us as. But we're really excited that this February we actually are launching our pilot program. So we're going to have 10 homeless individuals from the Boston area, from a shelter we've partnered with, actually getting these debit cards, and they're like very nice debit cards with their names on them and backed by, we have bank partners. And it's just really exciting that after so many years of being told no, especially in the nonprofit world and the startup world, trying to be both innovative and pursuing social justice, that people really do believe in us now, and that we're gonna see how it goes these next couple months with our 10 homeless individuals and go from there. So that's kind of an overview of who we are, what we're trying to do, and I'm excited to kind of share more about that throughout this hour and learn from others as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anna. Please keep us updated, keep us
Yeah.
posted on how it goes. It's really exciting. Awesome. And Mike, we'd love to hear from you next.
Cool. My name is Mike Cole. I'm the executive director at TUGG, which stands for Technology, Underwriting, Greater Good. We're a Boston-based nonprofit that stands at the intersection between the tech community and the nonprofit community. We're 13 years old, and in our core mission, we identify young, exciting startup nonprofits, much like GiveCard, and we invite them to join our community. And once they're in our community, we use our connections with the local tech community, so entrepreneurs, CEOs, tech workers, to provide a mutual benefit. For our nonprofits, obviously, being connected to tech companies means dollar donations, it means technology donations, it means virtual volunteering, in normal times, regular volunteering, and just general advocacy. And then for our tech partners, a lot of the companies that we work with are on the younger side, and so they're just starting out on their philanthropic journey. Like, how do we incorporate giving back into our culture in a sustainable and long-lasting way? And kind of we help guide them through that journey through our core of nonprofits. And so, in normal times, we hold 2 large events every year. One is an event to kind of, as I said, welcome those new nonprofits into our community. The other happens to be one of the largest industry service events in the world. It's called Tech Gives Back, in which, last year we had about 300 companies around the world. 200 companies around the world, 100 here in Boston, kind of stop what they're doing for 2 or 3 days in October and volunteer at nonprofits. And again, we were in 5 countries, 11 states, and it started here in Boston 7 years ago, with just a handful. So, and since we're not in normal times where we can't throw these large in-person events, we've evolved to become more of an API, that real connector where we are leaning on our tech partners to help the problems that nonprofits need help with. And then we're leaning on our nonprofits to incorporate tech partners into maybe some of the things that they're already doing. And so that's what we're doing. We ended 2020 on a strong note, all things considered, and we're looking forward to an exciting and better 2021.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. You and Anna both in the same city. Very, very fun to hear the crossover there. And then Ashley, love to hear from you and in our city.
Yeah. Hey everyone, my name is Ashley Bladen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Techdren. Techdren is a 501c3 nonprofit based out of Burlington, Vermont, with an overarching mission to provide technology to ensure hands-on learning. Excuse me. We started off about 3 years ago when myself and other co-founders were undergrads at Champlain College, and they went on a travel course to Zanzibar, specifically at an island called Pemba. While they were there, they got to visit, they really dived deep into the culture of the community, and they visited a couple primary schools where they always say that all of the kids were super passionate about technology. They wanted to be mathematicians, they wanted to be computer scientists, and of course, as we started off as an all-female run company in various tech fields, that hearing this was just, this is so cool. It's really nice to hear and see young women in other countries feel so passionate about technology. The more they dive deep into it, the headmaster explained that they only had textbooks and that they were just asking if there was potential that we could give them updated textbooks. At the time, they were learning Windows 98, and they were still heavily focused on landlines, which we all know is kind of a thing of the past now. And basically, we came back together in Vermont and said, let's do one better. Let's try to get these kids laptops. And we did. Since then, we have given that community specifically over 60 tablets and laptops, projectors, and various accessories to help make sure that they can sustain the technology there with a different climate and everything. Along with that, we focus very heavily on the education of these tools. It's something that is very strong in our hearts that we don't ever want to dump technology on a community or an individual. We want to make sure that they are comfortable with technology, that they know how to use it, and that all the software is very tailored to what they need and what their community can use. So we make sure that we download for that community specifically is a bunch of elementary school aged kids. So we have all the fun keyboarding games and how to learn English. And then everything is also available in Swahili, their home language. And we've been partnering with them for about 3 years. And this upcoming year with COVID and everything, we really had to shift our focus due to not being able to travel back and give them more technology. So we started off partnering with the Burlington Boys and Girls Club. We really learned that the Burlington area has a slight problem with children trying, or I guess not children, people going into their undergraduate careers without laptops, because Vermont is really great at providing laptops for K through 12. However, they're not personal use, so they can't really take them home. And then once they graduate, they're kind of left in the dust. And those students who particularly focus on using libraries or computer labs don't really get that access anymore. So we have partnered with them. They have an early promise program where if you basically sign a contract at your sixth grade saying that you're going to try really hard to get into college, that they help you through that process. They do everything you can. And then we signed on to say that we will hand you a laptop once you're getting ready to go and do your next step. We've also recently partnered with an assistant and unassisted living home called Quarry Hill. We are very big in saying that we are learners at every age, no matter the fact. And this was a really exciting partnership for us because they reached out and said, our community has been on lockdown due to COVID and they haven't been able to have visitors and they can't do their community events and they need help with technology. So we were able to give them a little less than 15 laptops and make sure every resident had laptop so they could do community events, which I've been told that they are educational. And of course, they could talk with their family members during the holidays, which is very important to us. And within the next couple of weeks, we're launching our Tech Access program. We call it TAP, where we're really focusing on the individual. So individuals can apply either for themselves or for a family member or a friend who they know are struggling with access to technology and really need it to further their education. And so once they apply, we can be in touch with them and really get them the access that they need.
How cool. That's awesome to hear. I didn't even know you were doing all of that. Yeah. That's so exciting. All the new things going on.
Lots happening.
Love that. And so then the next question that I have, and feel free to jump in. Also, don't feel like you have to answer every question, but if this one rings true to you. So I'm curious if you guys could walk me through where you see the intersection between technology and social justice. Is it everywhere? Is it certain elements?
I'll start. So, the intersection that I'm seeing in Boston that I'm sure is replicated across the world is that you have, hundreds, if not thousands of nonprofits in any given metro area that, are facing larger hurdles and challenges than your typical business because their resources already are limited and their abilities already are limited. And now you throw a pandemic in the mix. And then on the other side, you have a tech community that I might be totally biased, but there's a generation, the younger tech talent is a generation of doers. It's a generation of we're giving back, and kind of being kind to your fellow person is built in. And on top of that, their technical skills allow them to solve problems faster and more broadly than I think at any point in history. And so you have this like almost this bloated tech talent force. And then on the other side, you have nonprofits that, in many cases are run by an older generation that aren't as tech savvy, that are doing things, I guess you could say, analog versus digital in a lot of cases, and are having a really difficult time pivoting to whether it be virtual environments, or even just generally working remotely. I mean, that's something that's a huge challenge for someone that's not used to that. And so the intersection is that there is such a large opportunity for the tech community to give back. And I know you hyperbolize and you throw this term around like, oh, we need you more than ever. I mean, I feel like every email that I get always has that, like, it's more important now than ever. But I think that there's actually some credence to that this time around, because there's such a large opportunity. And I think what a lot of people don't understand is that 15, 20 minutes, an hour of their time is just the value of that to someone that has no idea or about a certain topic, or doesn't have the expertise, is just it's amazing. So that's the intersection. Is the intersection that I see is that there's never been a greater opportunity to kind of step in and give back.
Totally. Do either of you, Anna or Ashley, want to touch on that one?
Yeah, I think I completely resonate with that, and especially on an operational level, trying to, like, we are a nonprofit ourselves, but coordinate with specifically shelters in the Boston area. It is crazy to see how different nonprofits and organizations function, and like it takes a week to get an email back, which is totally like understandable because they're focusing in on the people they're with and busy and all that kind of stuff. And so it is interesting though to look at that way, but then also like our users, I guess, are the people that we're trying to help, individuals experiencing homelessness. We started wanting to, solve the cash problem, the cashless society, because 60% of Americans don't carry cash on a regular basis. But as I said, that world, that kind of opened Pandora's box to see how technology is so like finally integrated into our everyday life. So a lot of places don't take cash anymore. And for some people have coined the term unbankable, or banking the unbankable, for homeless individuals, because you need an address to get a debit card a lot of the times, or you need kind of these certain things that are huge roadblocks for individuals who are on the fringe of homelessness, experiencing homelessness. And a lot of times we don't think about that because you put your school address or your home address and you don't think twice. But it's a really huge challenge for people experiencing homelessness. And you can check your credit score and your bank account information really easily through your phone. And 90%, I think it was like in 2017, 90% of individuals experiencing homelessness had a mobile phone. So they didn't have an address, but they had a phone, and they had a case manager, but could only meet with their case manager once a month, but like easily could get those resources, get that kind of stuff. So this summer, actually, with COVID, we had a lot of people reaching out to us through our website about getting immediate assistance. And there were people in Kansas and Missouri and Colorado and all across the nation reaching out for help, which is also a really unique thing with technology, is that people have more access to resources because they can Google, homeless help, whatever. And that was kind of a tough point for us, where we had to be like, we're not currently in launch right now. We're in progress. We're not actually available to help you right now. We provided immediate assistance, but in terms of like being part of the program. So that's also interesting. But as you know, we saw that it's so hard to, as an individual trying to navigate the crisis of homelessness, there's so many resources, but you don't know where to begin. And so, and like for financial independence, we had a lot of focus groups with former individuals who had or who experienced homelessness. Of you have all this information and you know what you need to do, and you know you need a home address to get a credit card and all this stuff, but like, where do you begin? And that's kind of where we think technology and kind of fine tuning those resources and having those like your phone and an app to be able to connect with your case manager would be just incredibly helpful for these individuals, and at least not solve the problem. And we're not saying we ever could, but connect people to those resources and just, yeah, leverage that technology, which homeless individuals already have, and keep them up and not marginalized because they don't have a home or anything like that.
Totally. That's very cool.
Yeah, I just would love to step in and so social justice and technology is really the base of our company. It's something that I think a lot of people understand that in the United States, technology is fairly easy to come by. And it's, especially right now in a virtual world, I think it's hitting hard that people who don't have it are in a really tricky situation. And it's something that's been happening for years. I know I've heard of in our research that there are many communities in India who dozens and dozens of students just have to stop going to school now because they don't have access to virtual learning. And it's absolutely crazy that, you know, one little piece of technology can completely halt your life, and how much we actually need it to succeed right now. It's something that we've talked a lot with our communities in Pemba. And because we're getting this technology to them so young, that we were not going to know the actual effect of it for quite some time, in whether or not we really change their lives. If this is like a key factor in them being able to leave their community, to go to university, to be able to do these things that they want. The closest information that we've gathered so far is, you know, something we take for granted, I'm pretty sure, is the idea of putting down knowing Word on our resume. We went back last year and they were like, yeah, they gave us, it's a really nice presentation, and they really went home and we know how to use Word and we know how to use Excel. And it was something that I know obviously they didn't have access to, but the concept that that could be so important to their education and their success in the future, that is how impactful technology can be when you don't have access to it, and how easy that I would say companies in the US, just from my personal experience, are, you know, they refresh rate in many companies is close to 3 years or less. So a lot of these really nice laptops just get thrown out or demolished when so many people in even communities of your own can use that, and it could completely impact their life and really change their social status in a way and help them succeed.
Yeah, that's very cool. And it's definitely, I mean, that computer literacy that, I mean, especially people in their 30s, 40s, 20s, whatever, are really born into. And that's wild. Think about that. I mean, huge impact in your life, knowing how to use Word for real. And then the next question that I have for all of you is, you know, what made you decide to tackle this subject, and how did you get into the field, and what makes you stay?
I know for myself, it was very personal. My family's from Bolivia, but I am one of the first cousins, I would say, to be born in the United States. And I grew up always being told, you never know how lucky you are to have that American passport. And it wasn't until I grew up and got older that I actually realized how privileged we are to be in the United States, to have access to everything. And it was something that when I heard about what Techdren at the very beginnings, before it was Techdren, was doing or wanted to do, that I immediately grabbed onto, because I understand how much some small thing can impact a community, and how important. I know, Sadie, you also went to Champlain, but Champlain College is known for its hands-on learning. I mean, it raves and raves about how our first year we are diving deep into whatever curriculum that we do. And for my case, it was computer science. So we were surrounded by technology and computers that, how do you be surrounded by so much success and so much availability that you don't want to help someone else be able to also experience that? But that's what's always kept me interested in, just that area of service. I absolutely adore it. And well, I think, I can't see myself stopping anytime soon.
I'm glad, because we need people doing that work. That's awesome.
So I grew up in Rhode Island, and I left Rhode Island when I was 25, or 20, like younger than that. But I left because there wasn't really a startup community. Technology hadn't really made its run just yet when I left Rhode Island. And so I moved to Philadelphia to work for a startup that failed 6 months after I joined it. And then I moved to Atlanta because that's where my girlfriend, who's now my wife, had family. And I worked for a really cool company down there. And then I was able to move to New York to open the first sales office for Reddit in New York. And kind of bounced around New York for the last 5 years, and decided that I wanted to come home to New England, and I wanted to do something meaningful via tech. One of the best experiences of my life was my first year at Reddit. We made a promise to our community that we were going to donate 10% of our advertising revenue to 10 nonprofits of the community's choice, and it was amazing. And I never got that high again. And so I wanted, it was threefold. I wanted to, dare I say, maybe settle down a little bit after bouncing around, living in 5 states over 10 years. But I also wanted to come back to New England and do something meaningful that also involved tech. And TUGG just was this island in the middle of an ocean that was like, all right, that's where I'm going. And so that's kind of how I got where I am.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I love hearing people's journey to get where they are.
Yeah, and for me, I'm 21 currently, so that's also inspiring to hear that there's so much out there. But for me, I think I've had a lot of tech misconceptions about what it means to be in tech, and then also later in my college experience, what it means to be in nonprofit work. And I always kind of felt a turmoil of, I want to do good, I want to pursue good, but I also love technology and whatever that life may bring. And I always just saw very black and white pictures of both. In high school, I took computer science and I swore it off. I was like, this is great for people who want to sit behind a desk all day and just code and have a very normal, predictable life, but that is just not what I want to do. And then I thought nonprofits, I was like, that's really great for people who are brave enough to go into that space and, not always have job security or financial security. I just had a lot of misconceptions of what it actually meant to be both, or that if you work nonprofit, you can't make any more money than, this certain level, or else it's hypocritical. And all these things. And I think what I realized both in my past 4 years at college is that tech can be so much more than just sitting behind a desk. And that, I think that is a huge realization for me of, wow, okay, so I can do tech and it can also be fun. I've worked an internship this past summer and realized I do actually like coding and sitting behind a computer for 6 hours. That is something I actually do like to do. So I thought that was nerdy, and last here I am sitting there for 6 to 8 hours a day, just zoning out. But also that you can do that and work for good, and it doesn't need to be such a polar opposite. Nonprofit is slow and that, like those classic kind of personas people put on nonprofit work. And then tech company, you don't have to be like heartless and pursuing, money and these huge companies like that. And I think that was a critical realization for me, that I can do both. And so that's why I feel the most fulfilled I've ever felt when thinking about my future careers, my future options, and knowing that I can always pursue both and, actually make them more meaningful, to do tech with a purpose and also kind of do something for the purpose, for the common good, with these innovative solutions like technology. So it's a really cool area to be in, and gives me a lot of hope, leaving and graduating this spring, that there's so much possibility out there. So
That's awesome. I love to hear that. And I think especially, for women in tech, I think it's definitely that polarizing view gets even more internalized. And so it's really exciting to hear you share your experience of being able to sort of combat that and realize that you can do what you love. Great. So the next question that I have is, what are common misconceptions people have about the work you do / people you support? And how can we combat these misconceptions and communicate missions like yours more effectively? Sort of a worry question, but
I think for us, we have two very distinct misconceptions. Of course, the first one will always be the white savior concept, where we're just going to a community and dumping laptops and being like, oh, I hope your life gets better, which is definitely not the case. We were very adamant in making sure that was not the case. It's something that we all were astonished, I guess, when people started being like, well, all you do is just bring laptops to kids. I'm like, no, we teach them how to type, and these small things that you never think are important. And it's really hard to try to push that misconception away, because it's just something that's with the work that we do. And then I think the other half of it, which I'm sure Anna can feel for, is we started off all undergrads. So for a long time in our, I guess, career through Techdren, we were really mainly considered a club. People thought that we were some after school activity, which was definitely not the case. And luckily, most of us have graduated now, and it is solved itself, sort of. It's also something that all of us do have full-time jobs. This is something that we all feel passionate about, and I would always say it's my favorite hobby, because it's where I spend all of my free time. But it definitely hurts us, because some people feel like if this is not your full-time job, that you definitely aren't taking this seriously enough, which, like I said, is not the case. We are all so very passionate. We spend the amount of hours we spend above our full-time jobs is sometimes kind of ridiculous, and I have to step back and be like, are we okay? But it's truly a passion project, where no one's being forced to do what they don't want to do. It's all work that we love. And to support that, I mean, just getting more supporters, getting our outreach up is the most important for us. Making sure more people know about us to, really fuel the full circle of, getting technology, getting it to the right place, teaching, and then keep it going. But yeah.
Yeah, everything you said, I completely have felt and relate to. And I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions that we've had to overcome, not only as kind of our own selves, seeing ourselves more than just like a group of students trying to pursue good for a short term, but also prove to investors, banks, to bank the unbankable. But also, we have a high risk situation, but we have college individuals, undergrads working on it. And I don't blame people. I if you're an established adult organization, investor looking to partner and give substantial amount of your time and effort, college students aren't historically going to be your best and safest option. And that's the hardest part, is trying to convince people that yes, like we are working extremely hard. And there's also a line to toe of accepting that we don't know all the answers and that we're still a startup and that we're going to fail, but not letting that be kind of combined with being college students, because I think we do care so much. Same as Ashley, this is not our like full-time thing in terms of we're full-time students and doing really cool things also outside of being a student and being a part of GiveCard. But we put in the work, and we put in a lot of work and time. And it's also cool that no one has to do this. Like a lot of people also have full-time offers and jobs now, and they're still staying doing this, working over winter break, working like Christmas Eve, this is our break, but it's like, oh, it's GiveCard time. And it's just really, really inspiring to me to see that people like that we care so much individually, and that, we're trying to convince people. And then when people do believe in us and have hope in us, that's just really, really inspiring, that people are willing to put aside those reservations and those being skeptical and risks into being like, wow, we really do believe in what you're doing and your mission. And we want to go for it. We want to believe. And that was mostly a huge success with the bank we ended up partnering with, being able to take that risk and being able to see us more than a group of college students, which I don't blame people for seeing us for. That was a comment that we got on a challenge that we participated in. And we've just been working very hard to kind of shatter that conception of us. So, but it's never, I think if anyone is in college or younger, you can definitely do it and have an idea, and you don't need everyone's support. There will always be someone who doesn't believe in it, and startups everywhere will say that. And doesn't mean you're not going to fail necessarily, but it's just, I would always encourage people to do it, because there will always be someone who does believe in you. It may take years, but there will be someone to believe.
Yeah, I would actually, playing off that, it's like different side of the same coin, but it's the power of the individual. There's this huge misconception that like, what difference can I make? How can I help a nonprofit? I'm just a single person donating a half an hour of my time. Surely with things that you want to blow out to the world, like anything in life, the larger the metrics, the better looking it's going to be. So like, I can tell you that at our last large volunteering event, 2,000 people around the world volunteered, and we had 80,000 hours or whatever. And that sounds good, but one of the stories of the last year that I think really kind of changed my mindset on these things is, we hold a program called the Lunch and Learn program, which is where nonprofits, speak to a company, or a company will invite a nonprofit to come in and speak to their workforce for like a half an hour at a time to talk about their mission, to talk about volunteering opportunities, etc. One of the earliest lunch and learns that we did in 2020 happened to be with this nonprofit. It was our first one of the year. We were all very excited. 40 people were on a Zoom call together, which was one of our larger ones of the year. And they went through their mission. They went through volunteering opportunities and how to get involved. And at the end, not one person raised their hand to help. And 2 weeks later, I heard back from that executive director of that nonprofit, who said, a day after we gave our presentation, a young engineer reached out to me saying that he just loved our mission. Any way he could help, he would. Fast forward 8 months, and not only did that young engineer build a back end, I believe a CRM system for this nonprofit, but now the nonprofit is considering, or they have already, I haven't checked in with them in a few months, but inviting this engineer to join their board as like under an advisory role. And that's just one person out of 40 that where there was no interaction, nothing. So don't discount. I think the misconception is like, this nonprofit needs so much help. There's surely like, my donation of my time isn't going to really move the needle or make a difference. And I think that like most things in life, you will never know that for sure until you try. and kind of put yourself out there. So that's my biggest misconception, is that, the power of the individual is can be so much greater than what it might appear to be from a distance.
I feel totally inspired. By the way, you should all do motivational speaking. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing all that. So, my next question is, since the world has moved online, I mean, especially since the COVID-19 crisis, how do you see the intersection of technology and social justice evolving? Like, where do you think we're going to be in the next 5 years as the world continues to become more digitized?
Um, that's a hard question, not only, I mean, in terms of technology, 5 years seems like a lifetime. I just can't even imagine the innovation that can happen. And I know that the innovation is happening now, just with everything going virtual. How many companies have had to change the way they do things? How many nonprofits have really struggled to keep doing what they love and keep doing what they're doing virtually? I can see it, hopefully, that technology will be seen more as a social justice issue. It's the hope of that, because right now, I mean, when you think about your basic rights, shelter, water, food, and it deems the question of at what point is technology going to be a basic right to keep doing what we're all wanting to do. So I would be hesitant to say that in the next 5 years, hopefully that question will be answered, and to see what not only will companies do, but what, bigger entities like countries, what we as a people are going to do to hopefully combat that issue.
This is probably unpopular, but I think much in the way that technology has completely flipped around the retail experience and just life in general into where we're working remotely, I think technology is going to provide a greater good for our communities, our lower income and more at-risk communities and populations, at the expense of, sadly, probably some nonprofits. I think that technology is going to allow the transfer of, and GiveCard, you're already kind of helping out here, but technology is going to allow the transfer of both financial donations and technology donations directly to the end user, and kind of cutting out that middleman, who essentially is an aggregator of, whether it be dollar donations, technology donations, clothing items, toiletries, things like that. I think technology will effectively allow you to contribute directly to the end user, whether it be a family or an individual, and kind of move away from that traditional, charity, nonprofit, let's pool up all our resources here and then we distribute. I think that it's gonna go more towards like direct donations, direct deposits, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think there's so many positives to technology, but I think also we've seen with COVID and just this past year of things are changing so drastically. It's been not even a year, so predicting the next 5 years is difficult. But I think the intersection of technology and social justice, I like to look at it in like the glass half full, or at least I have to, or else I get too sad and down about the world. But I think that there is a lot of potential to allow more resources for people who are experiencing hardships and difficulties. Like I talked about before, there's more resources, but I'm also skeptical about people saying, yeah, more technology, more access, because a lot of times that can just be more confusion. Some people 20 years ago, could walk to their homeless shelter or like kind of a resource center and, have one or two options and be on their way. But now there's so many options, but, they have certain restrictions and applications. And that is one thing we heard a lot from former homeless individuals, is that where do you start? How can you actually pay off this debt to get a home, or like, what does it look like when you have a home or when you have a house, but then it actually you have to pay the rent and pay for cleaning supplies. There's a lot of kind of stuff that's not just the cut and dry information, and that case managers come in as a huge help, resource groups. And that is kind of the unfortunate thing about being more isolated with COVID, and like even just without COVID, technology and being more on your own, but connected to the world. So I think that is a place we want to proceed with caution of making sure people still actually do have more access to resources, because technology can kind of be a false illusion of having more access and resources, but they need to be effective still in helping individuals, not just in the homeless community, but people kind of marginalized in general. So I think that is something that is a great opportunity, but also something to be cautious about for nonprofits and just people trying to do good in general.
Yeah, totally. I think that's a great perspective to bring in, and definitely that education needs to come along with those resources. Like Ashley was saying too, you not just want to hand someone a laptop, but then have no idea how to use it to your benefit. So that's definitely an important thing to think about moving forward. So my next question is, what is the number one way that viewers watching this live or who might be watching a recording of this panel, how can we help your cause? Like, what's the one thing that is the most beneficial for you all?
I think for us, something I've been wanting and always, not knowing of where to go next is expertise. Kind of like Mike was saying with, that one person who built that back end thing. We had someone actually come onto our team this summer and do similar thing. They were like, I love this. This is a great mission. So awesome. And then basically just built a whole digital case management product. And it was like an independent product. It was super awesome. And it is just really cool to have someone join just because they're passionate and want to help. And I think also though, what we need is mentors. We have, enough funds for our pilot program starting next month for the next couple months, because we always used to say donations and they do really help. But I think we just need more expertise, more mentors, more people who are willing to give advice. And I know that there's a lot of people who have been through really positive experiences and have so much wisdom and knowledge to share that we are just dying to know. So being able to connect with people, even just getting advice like emails, if you being able to send information. And we are very used to people being skeptical about what we are and love to take that into consideration too. So any kind of advice or input, and if being a mentor, and also just being connected to different people in this network, in the technology sector and social justice and in the intersection. We are always just so fired up and learn so much from every conversation. Even doing stuff like this is just so inspiring, and I learn a ton. So I think knowledge, support, any of that kind of stuff, I will drop our LinkedIn and socials in the chat. But yeah, we just love that and would love to connect with either you directly if you have, access to investors or banks or anything that you think would be beneficial to us, but also just anyone in general. We love hearing more and more the good people are doing and how they want to be a part of our cause. So
to piggyback off of that, I think the most important thing for us is really connections in any sort of way. A big part of what fuels us is if someone, emails us and they just say, hey, we know of this community that I think you could help. And that immediately gets our balls rolling, and we love to see it. And we love to hear more about how we could potentially help a community. And then on the same branches, learning about, hey, maybe this company would like to partner with us so that we can take over their refresh cycle. Or maybe there's this other nonprofit that does a lot of the similar work. Why don't we start working together? We really want to grow and we want to keep doing what we're doing. So any sort of connections, anything that might seem interesting in line with us, we really love to know. As Anna did, I'll probably put all of our information in the chat. But we just love to hear from everyone. We're just here to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that unless you're completely enamored with our mission and our kind of unique position at the intersection between tech and nonprofits, I would point you towards local nonprofits that could absolutely use your help. Um, we're in the Boston area, and if that interests you, by all means, reach out. My website is now in the chat. My personal email is now in the chat. Absolutely reach out. I can help you along your kind of journey of what you're thinking, where your skill sets might fit the best. But again, unless you're completely love what you heard from me today, which isn't often, absolutely. Like I would say locally look at nonprofits that interest you, areas that you're interested in, and just kind of reach out. Don't be afraid to reach out I guess reach out your hand in these days doesn't make much sense, but don't be afraid to send that cold email. Don't be afraid to say, hey, I got 2 hours to spare a week. What can I help you with?
That's awesome. Yeah, thank you all for sharing that. And I think definitely what I hear echoed in all of your answers to that is really just offering your expertise, your time, your skill set. And I think that's something great to remember because so often, my go to is donate money. Like, how can I give money? Where can I send it? Can I Venmo you? Can I do it through your website? But remembering that time is as or more valuable to a lot of these nonprofits trying to really get their mission out there and grow. So that's an awesome thing to remember, and definitely something that I'll be sharing with my people as well. And then the last question that I have for you is sort of a connected question. So what are the best resources for people who want to dive in deeper into your cause? Is it looking at your website? Is it following your Instagram? Is there a blog post that's really informative? And along with that, I'd love to hear any final thoughts or words of advice that you might have that you want to share.
For Techdren, if you want to get really up-to-date information, our Facebook page is the most up-to-date, and we post all the time. It's at Techdren Co. But our website does have every single bit of the same information, just in different formats. At techdren.org. But yeah, I guess a little advice, just I would say if you're interested in doing nonprofit work or working with a nonprofit, really reach out would be my best thing. Is someone is probably either thinking the same issue that you are, trying to find a way to combat some issue, or someone is in a nonprofit and could really use your expertise. If you're like, oh, that's a really cool nonprofit, reach out. They probably have a place where you could be, where you can help, and it's better for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, TUGG's, because we're just not a single issue nonprofit. Kind of wrapping your head around our mission in like a couple sound bits over an hour is difficult. I've just put our latest kind of our 2020 wrap up, which should give you a little bit more insight or like a little bit more context for the kind of work that we're doing and the nonprofits we're supporting. And if you want to, if that interests you, you have my email address and you can get involved there. But I gave my motivational speech the last question, which is like, don't be afraid to send that cold email. You never know who's on the other end, and you never know the impact you could have.
Yeah, I think for our cause as GiveCard, it's something we've learned is that every city has a very unique homeless population and how they deal with homelessness, what that looks like. So I'm in Minneapolis right now, and that situation is completely different than Boston's, and Boston's homeless population is completely different than LA. And so wherever you are, whether it be rural or city, I encourage you to just do a Google search of what homelessness is looking like in your city, in your town, and how the government's responses to that, how nonprofits are responding. It's really interesting. And that's kind of somewhere we had to realize of, we're going to focus in on Boston. We initially were like, we're going to do homelessness in all these cities. And that's kind of the long-term goal, but you really have to get to know the individual population that you're serving. So I encourage you wherever you may be to kind of dig into that a little bit more and learn, because there's a lot going on that you probably don't know. So I'd encourage that. And then also our website is a resource as well. Probably will be the most up to date as we start our launch, our pilot. It's a little bit difficult because we're working with individuals and we want to respect their privacy and that kind of stuff. But we are hoping to update that, and our Instagram and our LinkedIn. Actually, our LinkedIn will probably be the most accurate. But then I guess for final words of advice or wisdom, stuff like that, I say, kind of echoing what everyone has been saying, to just get involved in some way. I reached out to our founder, Lorraine, through a long text and being like, this is what I can do. I know you guys might need a new website, even if you don't, like that kind of stuff. And really, like, he was saying that they denied so many people before, like they were not looking for people to join the team because too many people were asking. But kind of, fight for yourself. And then also with that too, is you don't need to join a team. You don't need to start your own nonprofit. You can, I think LinkedIn is a really good resource of, if you see people doing really cool things, exactly how we're saying, be like, wow, I love this. Is there a way I can volunteer a couple hours a week? This and that. And I'm also on other projects too that are doing things. It's not just GiveCard. That's my one place to push social justice. It is good to focus in on certain things, but you can always say yes to new opportunities, but that might look like a different way. I give a lot of time to GiveCard, but every so often I'm involved in artificial intelligence, like with diversity and racial bias, and kind of there's all these projects and little ways I can help in different places, and people would be more than happy, as we said, to have your help, have your expertise and your passion and your love to do really cool things. So I encourage you to seek those out and be the person who's doing that instead of waiting for an opportunity, because the world needs more people who are willing to do good. So I'd really encourage that.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for those final thoughts. I think that, anyone who watches this is going to be inspired to take a next step if it's something that they've been thinking about, or new thought to, reach out and take that next step. But I want to say thank you so, so, so much for your time and for sharing your expertise with us. And I am really happy to have all this information here in the chat, and I'll be sure to get this spread with my network, and I encourage you to do the same. So I'll be sending out a link. And yeah, thank you so much. And I hope to stay connected to all of you. And I'm so excited about the work you're doing and look forward to being kept in the loop.
Thank you, Sadie.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sadie.
Have a good rest of your week,
Bye.
everyone.
You too.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.